you guys for watching. You are watching Just Talking with Johnathan Lewis, where I like to sit and talk and my trap a lot and try to sometimes get down to some serious stuff and other times not so much. I'm going to jump right into things. First, I've got to introduce Mr. Rush. I almost messed it up and said Mr. Daniel again. We were just talking about this too. Mr. Rush back to working master control as usual. And I've got my guest with me today. Looks like we lost his video. There it goes. There it is. He's back. Mr. Jacobi Crowley is joining me today. Mr. Jacobi, it's nice to see you again. How have you been, sir?
I've been pretty good. How about yourself?
I've been good, man. No complaints. And the same thing I say to everybody whenever they ask me is that you can't complain. It just doesn't do any good, right? Which is kind of one of the things, in some ways, it kind of segues into what I'm wanting to talk about, which is, well, first, real quick, for anybody who may not know who you are and what you do, why don't you explain to everybody who may be watching today what it is that what do you do?
All right, so my name is Jacobi Crowley. I work for Oklahoma Policy Institute. It's a think tank organization throughout the state of Oklahoma. We're based out of Tulsa, but I'm a field coordinator, a field organizer here in Southwest Oklahoma for this organization, a group called, umbrella called Together Oklahoma. And we're just working with the grassroots activism organization, basically getting people engaged, getting people connected to what's going on throughout our particular community and what's going on throughout our particular state itself, and how to be active throughout the process when it comes towards politics and policy.
Right, and that's awesome, because that's exactly what I was wanting to talk about today is, we've seen with all the different things that are taking place from COVID to, George Floyd and all the things that we've seen going on. We hear a lot about people wanting change, but we don't really hear a lot about solutions. And we're really having to kind of change the way we think now, because most people are used to saying, here's a problem, and we're so almost used to not getting a response that we don't really think of the solution. We just think that if we address the problem enough, that something will come up. How are you helping to move things along with, for instance, we had our protest here, which went very successfully when it came to the George Floyd situation. How are you assisting in helping people like our community to kind of learn the new way of thinking that we're talking about?
Right. So I think the biggest, first thing in connection with the rally itself, I was reached out by Emmanuel and a few other individuals to do something here in the city of Lawton that's never been really done before. And so, thought about it and thought it would be a great idea. They needed someone to organize it and put it all together. So I decided to take that particular level of position, just basically start organizing. We had less than 16 hours to get it all together and get everything kind of formulated, and then get the message out as much as possible. So, kudos to all the people that are connected within that. Now, I've been doing a lot of activism throughout the community for many years. So a lot of things that I've been doing have been already in the process of getting started. So, for example, the Citizens Advisory Board, which was an idea that was brought towards the city of Lawton in 2016 or 17. It was shot down off of presentation and things like that. I decided to take that initiative on after we had an incident here, I think roughly around mid-August with Jamal Porter, with the police officer. And so took that initiative on and decided that we needed to have some type of Citizens Advisory Board here in the city of Lawton. Met with a few city leaders throughout our community, and we started going to the drawing board and started putting together how the community should look. It just so happened we actually had mapped out how we were going to introduce this particular Citizens Advisory Board to the community, and get the community involved and get the community backing before we presented it to the city council. And it just so happened that this situation happened. Unfortunate that it did happen, but we were already ready, locked and loaded to implement change throughout our community. And I want to say this real quick. I want to highlight, our city government as well as our police chief and our mayor for being proactive in the assets. A lot of these cities that you're seeing in like Oklahoma City, Tulsa, just all around throughout the United States, Atlanta, a lot of their mayors, a lot of their city government have not been proactive. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of the protests and the frustration that is coming from that. Just because this was our first time doing it, I believe that there's always steps in process. You know, I'm not all for looting and things like that, but I am for protesting, using the First Amendment. So I personally feel, if this was our second, third go around and nothing has changed, then, I would understand those particular actions and, doing those particular actions itself.
Right.
But because we have not even went to square one, and we're at step one in the city of Lawton, we have to go at a proactive rate, the right way, and then move forward from there. So I think that, just overall, our city leadership saw what has not been done throughout the nation and throughout around the surrounding cities, and thought that they would get ahead of this and be proactive and get behind this, as well as push this forward and bring in a conversation and push this forward and making sure we implement things in our particular city.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with 100% of that. It takes more than just us saying that, like I was saying, there's more than just addressing the problem, and the fact that our leadership here in our community is really taking that effort to push things in the right direction. I had a conversation, I told him before about it as well, with the mayor, where I told him I thought something big was supposed to happen here in our city. And I feel like, this is all absolutely involved in what that feeling was that I had long ago. Hold on just one sec. Okay, no big deal. Somebody just popped up a notification there, so now I've got to clear that part. But anyway, it's not a big deal. So anyway, I had this conversation with him where I felt like something big is supposed to happen here. And, if this is it, then, I think this is probably something that's going to be way bigger than any of us are really expecting. But, it's good to know that you are partaking or participating in that the board you're talking about, the Citizens Advisory Board, with the background that you've got, in policy and stuff like that, because it's more than just, addressing a problem then. You really have the idea of what it is, the foundation is that we need to start moving things forward. What kind of things are you doing to reach out to people so that they can become more educated? Because, one thing I've realized is that the more educated everybody is to the actual steps that are involved to creating policy or even beginning to think about policy, the more educated everyone is to even the basics of it, the better we seem to fare. You know what I mean? Kind of like the idea of, say, an officer or somebody pulls you over and, you may know more of the law than they do. It can really benefit you. What are some of the things that you do right now to be community-oriented where you're actually passing that education on to people?
Yeah, so we're providing the opportunity for individuals to speak their truth, speak their piece at the community conversation that we're going to have this Saturday. But also we're providing forums and virtual events as well as in-person events of educating the public on particular issues itself. I think it's important that we acknowledge and educate the public. This is a time for the public needs to be more involved and connected and aware with what's going on. Outside of just the police, incident itself with George Floyd and his death, outside of just also police brutality, there's a lot of issues that are connected towards systemic racism, that are connected towards poverty within multiple communities. But it requires that an educational piece on earned income tax credits. It requires an educational piece on healthcare reform, on justice reform. It requires an educational piece on all these different types of things that people have to get more of a better understanding behind it in order for them to actually move forward. So my organization, we pride ourselves on going out, reaching out to different organizations, different communities, and educating them on just the importance of talking to your legislator, on the importance of understanding what policy is, and then asking questions if you don't understand. Right. Because we think that it is important and imperative that if you don't educate yourself, you're more likely to be prone to put yourself in a situation where it's going to happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Race Relations Committee that the mayor is putting together, I believe it's the next week that they're supposed to be addressing how they're assembling it. Do you have any plans or has anybody approached you at all about participating in the Race Relations Committee that he's talking about for me?
Yes, I've reached out and I've talked to a few people about the particular committee itself. This committee is going to be functioning outside of CAB, which is Citizens Advisory Board. the Race Relations Commission is going to be more directed towards the sensitiveness towards cultures throughout our particular community. We have a diverse culture in a diverse city. Just for example, there was an incident that happened where a particular business owner invited someone that got suspended for their particular former employer or whatever, and that person was brought into the city of Lawton during the situation with George Floyd and the protests and the riots and things like the rallies and things like that. And this particular individual that was invited into our city was also, I guess, suspended for saying the N-word.
Oh, wow.
And that was, it was a big outcry towards the black community because it felt unsensitive towards that issue.
Yeah,
I don't think that the owner itself knew it. So this particular committee itself is going to provide more opportunity for that more of the educational piece towards other particular cultures, as well as when things happen within our community on the race aspects. They will have more insight as well as more deliberative power to move our community forward in those particular efforts.
Okay. Is there anything upcoming that maybe people should know about that you might be involved in? Anything in the short-term future, long-term future?
Yeah. The community conversation is going to happen this Saturday. It's going to be at Great Plains Coliseum or Comanche County Fairgrounds. I don't know why I'm calling it that. But Comanche County Fairgrounds is going to be at 1 p.m. And we're going to still practice social distance. We ask the people to still wear their masks. We're going to have sanitizing stations up. But we'll also have other particular stations for people to go and still read on the census and other things that are very important as well. But this is going to give people the opportunity to come in and speak their truth, speak, their experience, not just with police and police brutality itself, but also just within racism within our particular community and fairness within equity itself within our particular community. So this is a great opportunity for people to tune in and connect towards that. And I ask that each and every individual come out and share their opinion. We're going to have as much space as possible. So just make sure you come out and get your voice to be heard.
Okay, good deal. How can people get hold of you if they want to get hold of you?
Well, you can go to Jacobi Crowley for Oklahoma on Facebook and follow my page, and I'll send information out about just various events and things that are going on throughout the community.
Okay. I appreciate you joining me today. I don't want to take up too much of your time. That's about our segment. I know we were talking about 15 minutes, so I can get out of your hair now. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me, man, and getting everybody, all of our viewers, up to speed on where you're at, what you're doing, and then and how they can become more involved and how you're helping them to do that. If you guys, as soon as we can get people back in, I'll have you guys actually come sit down and chat with me here. Yeah. We'll get there at some point.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. You have a good one. You guys don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You have a list of things to get finished, and life isn't slowing down anytime soon. This, that, and the other is prepared and experienced to get you to having things done.
Joe Powell with Solutions Auto Group right here at the new location in Duncan, Oklahoma. I was fortunate enough to hire Thomas Lewis and his staff. They're TT&T. I hired them for 3 or 4 weeks. They did a lot of renovation work here at the new location. They did a lot of cleaning. They did a lot of painting. They showed up on time every day, and they went to work. Could not have been any more pleased.
Call This, That, and the Other, renovation, small construction, and more today. I'm not watching it. Your small business is ready for the next level of marketing. Having the right tools in hand can help catapult your business into the place it deserves to be. From custom commercials that are ready for broadcast to the professional voiceover that you need for your business phone recording or radio commercial, we build it all in-house. Sign up with us today and see how all of our plans offer exactly the tools that you need. And more importantly, they don't break the budget you set for marketing. Call and visit us online at lookandlawton.com today. Let's get your business to the next level. lookandlawton.com. Am I on? I'm on and I'm live, baby. I'm back. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming back. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Jacobi does a lot of work in our community, so like if you can be involved in the things he's being involved in, you should join in that. But thank you guys for coming back. We got a really good show today. I got a lot of interesting things to talk about. This last week has presented a lot to discuss. Mr. Rush, before I go on though, I got to ask you. I got it right that time.
You got it right.
I did. I got to ask you, how's everything been going, sir?
Pretty good. I got 30-gallon fish tank, but I got some angel fish.
30-gallon fish tank.
Angel fish.
And he wants some angel fish, he says. I can't do fish, man. I probably would kill them. Not that I would deliberately kill them. I don't know. That's just how things go sometimes. Anyway, we got a good show today. I'm going to start talking about a lot of shit that happened this week. And the first thing that okay, so here's how this last week kind of, I don't know. I feel like it was all over the place. I feel like the media is trying to figure out which thing we need to see more of and hear more of, and we're kind of in a jumble. But the first thing I want to address, though, is the COVID-19 thing. We all still need to be being careful, no matter what anybody is telling us. We need to be being careful because we don't know for certain. We can't tell for sure. So let's just be cautious. Don't get too comfortable going out and not wearing your mask and all that. And that's really easy to do, and it's easy to make mistakes. But just remember to try not to, and then I think we'll all be better off that way. You know what I mean? So the first thing I want to talk about this week, it's kind of hard to pick because they're all such good topics. I'll address this one first and foremost. Did you know SpongeBob is gay? Apparently they officially came out and they said that SpongeBob is a gay character. I had no idea, but I mean, I guess people were like, "Well, we could already tell because he dresses like a girl and stuff." So his behavior is kind of. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm just like, it's a cartoon character. Like, why are we even? I don't understand why we're including. You know, I don't. You know what? My head hurts too much to really go there. I don't think I'm going to do that. But I had to bring it up though because it was just kind of like random, and you know when I saw it, and it had to do with was it the LGBT? Was there? I feel disrespectful right now, and I don't intend to be. There was something that happened the other day. It was the parade or something like that, I believe. Maybe I can't remember. Something like that happened, and that day Nickelodeon came out and had these pictures of these characters that showed that and kind of explained that that's what it was. I'm going to move on. So all the stuff that's going on, man, with this. Okay, so the George Floyd thing we know has sparked a lot of anger in people, and it's sparked a lot of action for change that we're seeing right now. But change doesn't just happen on one side of the equation. You know what I mean? For everything that we change, we have to expect other changes to come from it. That's just cause and effect. You can't avoid that. It's the principle of cause and effect. For everything that happens, there's something that happens because of it. The reason I bring that up, in Florida, the entire SWAT team and the police union president all resigned because of the police chief kneeling with protesters. That's crazy. That's crazy. Their whole SWAT team resigned because of their chief siding with the protesters and kneeling with them. I feel like what we're seeing is people who must have forgotten the oath that they took, the ones that make this decision. And now we're all leaving. And don't get me wrong, I understand in some regards why some people may feel the ways that they do. If, say, an officer does something like right now, everything's ultra sensitive. If you do something and you screw up, you're probably going to end up feeling the repercussions of that pretty quickly. So there's anger from that, from other officers, like that's not really fair, da-da-da-da. Now, the thing is that most of these officers that we're seeing that are doing foul shit, they're doing foul shit. Ain't no getting around that. They're just doing it. And it doesn't really matter what the difference is in terms of it doesn't really matter if they're approaching these situations in a nice way, if they're ending them with killing people or busting them up for some reason. I think that's really what we're addressing here. Hello. You guys want to quit because you're angry that we're not just letting you get away with it, and neither are your chiefs anymore, and neither are your mayors, and everybody's stepping up to say, hey, if you're a bad cop, you didn't sign up for the right job. That's kind of what it sounded like. And so now you guys are like, no, man, forget that, I'm leaving. I mean, where was that? Wasn't that Minneapolis? Was it Minneapolis or Seattle? One of the two. Where that dude was throwing a freaking fit. He was throwing a fit, talking about us looking at them like they're thugs and criminals. And I mean, that's kind of what you've been dishing out to everybody, man. You sound like the bully who got beat up and wasn't ready for it and was like, that's not fair. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. So I like what we're seeing. I think we need to stay on the same track. I say we keep going and we keep getting every single bad cop. Now, here's the crazy part. You know what? I'm not even going to discuss that because I don't want to be the trigger to some crazy things ever happening. I look at fate and destiny that way. I really do. I look at existence and I see that we can alter it. People don't realize how easy it is to alter something. So I don't really want to say too much of some things. I'm going to go back to something that kind of impacts that, though. So now this is in New York. Governor Cuomo, the other day, he did one of his daily briefings or whatever, and he was talking about how they're wanting to reform their police. And he said, okay. He says, you want to reform the police? And he's telling people, he says, you guys can do it. He says, you have until April 1st of next year so that it can be passed into law, whatever reforms you guys come up with. He says, but here's the thing. He says, and he started getting very detailed with it to show the magnitude of what it is people are really going to step into. He says, you know, if you want to defund the police, how much? Where do you want that money to come out of? You know, and he starts listing off all these different things, these different areas, and then listing off all the different jobs that come with changing the policy. And the thing is that the policy absolutely needs to be changed. He says people have got until April 1st. And they have the authority, he says, to change 100% of their policing system. I think that that's cool, but that's a lot of work. And I wonder if people are really ready for that. What if all cities in all states, the governors were like, you know what? Let's do that. Let's reform policing, and you have until now, from now to the next time that it has to be passed through for that year or whatever, to get it on paper. First, it raises a question to me. Do we already have this ability to do that? Do we already really have the ability? Because if he says you can go do it, if he's telling his state, you can go do it, change it and then have it on paper and then have it basically on the desk so it can be signed into law or whatever it's got to be by April 1st. Can we already do stuff like that? Because if we can, why haven't we been doing that? But if we can, now we know we can, we should be doing that. Because the policy is what's going to change everything. It's not just about being angry and saying, you know, we're wanting change, we're wanting change. We really have to take this and break it down into its most minimal part, its smallest piece. See, okay, so my background, for people who don't know, is multimedia design. Now, it's not graphic design. A lot of people have the two confused. Graphic design is basically where somebody learned how to use computers and technology to make really awesome artwork. But multimedia design differs in that it's got a foundation of psychology underneath it. We've been taught how to, anybody with this background has been taught how to look at something, break down its entire process, create effective materials to deliver new process to you, and you retain that information. So I'm particularly getting to the point of where what my focus is whenever I'm creating anything that I create is how am I delivering this effectively? What is the most minimal part that I have to appeal to get somebody to retain it? Why am I saying all that? I'm saying all that because what ends up happening is we get so caught up in the big problem that we don't break it down to the smallest point, and that's where loopholes and things come from. We have to have people who are focused and ready and determined and diligent and will stay and wait and write and create policy that's going to be effective for everyone, because it can't just be about the big problem with very vague responses. It has to be you're talking about the law here. Think about the law. The law is done in such a way that when anybody reads it, they're supposed to get the same interpretation or as close to the same interpretation of it as they can. That means it has to be very, very specific and particular. So all the weird jargon, legal jargon that's used is used for a reason, because that's how you get down to being specific to something. You have to really look at exactly what it is you're saying, and when somebody hears it, what exactly are they hearing? Because if there's two interpretations of something, then somebody could literally break a law that was just misinterpreted and then be found innocent because the way it was interpreted, they didn't necessarily break it. That's really where we got to put our focus at. We got to put our focus at realizing our change has to go or has to happen in certain ways, almost like phases or stages. We can't just expect things to be like, boom, we've complained, and then one day somebody had the answer. Otherwise, the wrong person's going to be writing the answer, or the wrong people will be writing the answers. And when they write those answers and they get them passed into law, and we think, man, they did something for us, and we come to find out there's something in there that we didn't expect or we weren't prepared for that led to us getting in trouble for something we might not have foreseen. We can only blame ourselves for not being a part of the actual policy that's being written or understanding it. Or, I mean, for most people, even contributing to it. You know, everyone has millions of arguments on Facebook, back and forth with each other. This needs to change, that needs to change, these people are wrong, those people are wrong. But all of that arguing doesn't write a single piece of legislature. It doesn't write anything. It doesn't even write a rule, a guideline. It's just arguing. Let's stop arguing and let's start figuring out the solutions, and let's start teaming with the people who are ready to do something. Everybody can't be a leader in everything, but everybody can be part of a team that's properly led. So you got to get in where you fit in, kind of thing. If you don't write legislature and you don't write law, that's cool. Become part of the think tank, because you may have ideas that somebody who's better at writing that kind of stuff may be able to take from and say, you know what, that's great. Let's write this down this way so that it means specifically what we're trying to do, or however we go about it. But we got to get out of the social media realm of what it is we're doing. We got to get out of the realm, I don't even want to say we got to get out of that realm. Yeah, we kind of need to stay in the realm of protesting. We don't need to stop doing that yet. We need to stay in that realm until this shit is done right, until something is done right, and we have legislature that we know trustworthy people, intelligent people, wise people came together to put together for the greater of mankind. That's how I feel about that. It's past Thursday. You know? Oh, here we go. So, good old Donald Trump is always saying, you know, the pedophiles are going to go to jail. Pedophiles are going to go to jail. This is a law that's supposed to pass today. I don't know if it's going to pass today, but it is something that was going through to be passed today. This law is going to allow judges to give life sentences and also offer minimum mandatory sentencing to pedophiles. I'm sure that that's going to pass. And I feel pretty certain it's going to pass. And I feel very strongly why it's going to pass. And you'd have to be a conspiracy theorist to understand why I feel that way. There's a lot of things happening right now that they're not telling everybody about. I probably sound a little crazy saying that, but I'm all right with that. I need a drink. I almost said I had cotton mouth, Mr. Rush. I almost called you Mr. Daniel again. Look, I'm drinking beverage. All right, we ain't trying to get sued there for nothing. All right, so apparently a third of the people who are federally charged that are for pedophilia never saw jail time last year. They looked at the statistics. And a third of the people who were federally charged, they were found guilty, they never saw jail time. And most apparently get less than 18 months when they do find jail time. That's crazy. What? That's like one of the most heinous kind of crimes that you can commit. And yet, it's so lightly sentenced. And it makes you wonder, again, it's conspiracy theory. Why is that it's been so lightly sentenced? I guess we'll see that take a different road in the near future. Hopefully that went through today. I'm hoping that it did. Oh, man, check this out. Well, what time is it? We got to take that break, don't we? Got about 5 minutes, he says. Okay, well, I'll keep talking then. So there's been a mutation in the COVID-19 virus. Actually, not the SARS-CoV-2 virus. There's been a mutation. They call it the D614G mutation. Which is exactly why we need to be more careful, because this thing is continuously evolving as well as we're trying to adapt to it. Apparently, this mutation makes it 10 times more infectious. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
10 times more infectious. And because it has 5 times the amount of protein spikes on it that makes it more stable. So, and it's harder to deactivate it as well. So, now I don't have more details to that part. You'll have to research that some more because it was when I read the article, it was a new article and they were just kind of vaguely defining the things that they were talking about, but they didn't really get into too many details when they say that it's harder to deactivate. My thoughts is, does that mean it takes higher temperature to deactivate it? Does it take particular kinds of chemicals, which we know certain things are going to deactivate it regardless, but how is it harder? And what does that mean? Like, does that mean that this second go-around that we're starting to see right now across the country, does that mean it's going to be far worse because that many more people are going to catch it? And if that's the case, what means are we going to take to avoid that? Because we can't just keep waiting for everyone to get it. We can't, there's nobody taking a proactive step to addressing this virus, eliminating this virus, doing something about it. Everybody's just saying, wear your mask, wear your gloves. What are we supposed to do? Yeah, we're going to keep our houses clean, and hopefully everybody's doing their best to keep their homes and their bodies clean. Hopefully everybody is wearing their mask. Hopefully they are wearing gloves if they need to wear gloves. If not, then hopefully you're washing your hands regularly and sanitizing. But what are we going to do about the virus? There's nothing we can do. You mean to tell me there's nothing? I don't believe it. Because the Netherlands, just last week I believe it was, might have been the week before that now, literally just eradicated it. Or not the Netherlands, New Zealand I believe it was. Just eradicated it. They eradicated it. They don't have it in New Zealand anymore. COVID-19, to the best of their knowledge, no longer exists in New Zealand. They got rid of all the cases. How? How can you do that? Well, really, it takes all the tracking and the testing, but it also takes people proactively trying to get rid of it. You basically have to find all the cases, treat all the cases, treat any of the areas around where those people may have been at all, and then basically you got to find all of it and kill it. You have to kill every bit of it. That's what it comes down to. That's why, like, if you saw any of the videos with China where they were fogging the streets and all that stuff, that's why. Because you have to kill it in the area that it's in, and then in all of the people that it's in. You have to treat them. There's no other way to eradicate something. I mean, you have to get down to the last bit of it. Is that really possible in all things? I don't know if it is, to be honest. We can't see it. It's microscopic, obviously. But at the same time, it's something that could be possible, but we could be better off if we were at least taking steps to try to eradicate it. Nobody in the U.S. is. What block, what city have you seen the cleaners get out on and start fogging streets, brushing streets, spraying streets with soap and water, anything? Nowhere. Nowhere. And that's a bad deal, because the longer the virus is around, then the longer our economy is being hit, because the less people can get jobs, because the less businesses that open back up or are started or are in different industries that we need to maintain the way we're living. And it's going to become really, really ugly if we don't start figuring something out as communities. We can't wait for somebody to say, I've got it. We have to come together as communities and say, here's a plan. Is anybody in opposition of it? Let's try it. Because if we figured out all the means of doing something, and then we figured out what the consequences could be of it, or the responses to what we do, if we figure out all those things and really plan something together as people, we can actually make it where we can go longer with lower infections. But if we don't see that kind of stuff happening, we're just going to keep on waiting for it to consume the planet. That's literally what we're doing right now. We're waiting on it to consume everything. And New Zealand's about the only place, apparently. Them in one other country. I can't remember which one it was, though. Real quick, we're going to take a fast break. Don't go anywhere. I've got plenty more to talk about, and I'm going to move pretty quickly through it, because we're already coming down to that time pretty quick. What in the world? Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Your small business is ready for the next level of marketing. Having the right tools in hand can help catapult your business into the place it deserves to be. From custom commercials that are ready for broadcast to the professional voiceover that you need for your business phone recording or a radio commercial, we build it all in-house. Sign up with us today and see how all of our plans offer exactly the tools that you need. And more importantly, Finally, they don't break the budget you set for marketing. Call and visit us online at lookinlawton.com today. Let's get your business to the next level. lookinlawton.com. Bring your fur baby into Just for Canines and Kitty too. We have all of the best items for your cat, dog, pup, or kitten in stock. From pet beds to toys, we have everything you can think of. We carry the best selection of pet hygiene products and a huge selection of cat and dog foods. Spoil your pet by letting us give them the full treatment from massage to complete bath and grooming. We also offer our mobile grooming services. Be sure to stop in today or give us a call. Just for Canines and Kitty too, your pet's favorite place to go. We cover all of the details. Wax, wash, and shine, your vehicle is guaranteed to come out shiny. Let us pay attention to the detail. We're here to vacuum, wash, and deodorize your vehicle on a professional level. Don't leave it to the other guys to miss things. We see them all. Do you have a fleet of vehicles? We're equipped to take on all the vehicles your business has too. Keep your business vehicles looking the best they can. Stop by today and schedule with us or message us on Facebook. Full Throttle Detail, located at 1601 Northwest Sheridan Road in Lawton. Am I on air? Hey, I'm back. I keep forgetting because I'm over here watching my I'm watching my screen over here and I'm like, what do you mean you're coming back on air? Oh, I forgot we're doing a show. No, I didn't forget, I promise, because I'm sitting here melting. There's no way I'm going to forget and just sit here. I'm going to move quickly through this stuff because I got a few things to talk about. Here's some cool shit. Gallery X Art Collective Tattoo Shop. That's not here in Oklahoma. This is in Kentucky. In support of the anti-racism that we're now seeing from a lot of people, that we're seeing this, everybody coming together for it. They said that they are going to offer, and have been offering for a little bit now, any racist tattoos to be covered up for free. So if you got that Confederate flag that you likely probably don't even know the history of, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just saying, you just go look it up. If you have one of those and you want to get rid of it because you found that you no longer feel those ways, you know, you understand something different or new about it, or if you just have like any kind of racist stuff, it's cool. They're offering for people to come there and get it covered up for free. I think that's pretty awesome. And if anybody offered that here, I wonder how many people you would get. Interesting. Let's see who decides to jump on that first. I'll be watching you on Facebook. Just saying. All right, so I'm gonna move through. Where's this other one at here? All right, so the New York Police Department disbanded a 600 officer unit. They're a plainclothes unit, okay? So they disbanded this unit because of, basically they got like a bad history. And what they go on to say is that 80% of this particular unit's reported stops, they result in no contraband. They result, and they're almost entirely made up of blacks and Hispanics or Latinos. So what they said was, if by disbanding this unit, it's pretty much like their last attachment to racist behavior on the police department, they said. They think that if they disband this unit, that a lot of the racist behavior on the police department will essentially go away. It's like their last connection to it. And that's New York, 600 officers. I don't know if they reassigned them or something, but if they disbanded that unit, that means they're no longer plainclothes. So at least they're not just out there randomly stopping and frisking people, because that's what they're saying that they're pretty much doing away with by disbanding it. They're saying they pretty much stop and frisk. Stop, question, and frisk is how they put it. Yeah. So to me, here's some thoughts I have as far as disbanding the police. There's a lot going on right now. You have all of these different states and all these different cities that are looking at disbanding the police, that are looking at defunding the police, taking money away. I'm not against that, but I am against the idea of taking the good police out of the picture, because we're still going to need police. We still need people. And it's hard to say you're good, you're bad, you're good, you're bad, except for when there's specific instances that we can say, man, you're a bad cop, you know? And you can't look at one good thing and say that they're a good cop because they did that. You got to look at their history. There's so much that's involved in it. If we just keep disbanding everybody, or we defund them to the point where they can't do their jobs well, then who's going to take care of us? And we're like, yeah, okay, we're going to do community policing. That's cool, but that's all voluntary. When people decide that they don't want to volunteer to do that anymore, what then? Chaos? We're going to now let the police deal with it. The ones that we say we don't want them to come and do anything that's hostile, and it's not to say that they can't protect themselves or keep people safe, but part of a police officer's job is intimidation. Not to say that it needs to be negative intimidation, but there's an authoritative respect we have to give them. And we want to give them respect either way, whether it's, you know, I respect you because you're doing your job, or I respect you because of your authority of the job. It's difficult for me to say that I'm cool with the idea of just doing away with police. And this comes back down to, again, to things like policy and all that. What parts of the police are we going to disband? Or what parts are we going to defund? Down to the specifics. Where are we going to get the right police officers to get out here and do this? Especially when they know that now those bad officers, the ones who may not go to jail, the ones who may quit their jobs, I mean, they're potentially bad guys now. You know, and not saying that they are, not assuming that they would be, but you can't, I don't know if what I'm saying even makes sense. I feel like we need to defund the police in terms of certain aspects. They don't need to be as militarized as they are. We need to change the policy in terms of corrupt behavior and the punishment that comes with that. So, because really that's what needs to be addressed, is the corruption. Because it's not even to say that there aren't laws in place to take care or treat or judge somebody with and sentence them with. The problem is that there's not strict enough laws on the corruption from the beginning. If a good officer feels like he can't tell on the bad officer because then he won't be protected or whatever the case is, that's where we see a lot of this in its beginning. You have the bad ones who speak up so much that they say basically they're running by street rules out here. They're basically saying snitches get stitches. I mean, come on, let's act like we've all watched TV. Let's act like we all have an idea where we hear that, you know, if you're a good cop and you rat the other ones out for something that they did, you might not get the backup you need. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to, how can we stop that? Because we stop that, we get good police officers. And it's not like there aren't enough people to want to police. The problem is that once you have a bad apple, they spoil the bunch. Right?
True.
Truth, indeed. I am melting. I'll drink another drink of my beverage. All right. So yeah, New York disbanding that unit. I think it's a good call. Do we know the impacts it's going to have? Not yet. We will find out, and I'm sure that they will not hesitate to let us know. Harris County, Texas. There's a black teen the other day who was found hanging in the parking lot of an elementary school. The police have so far ruled it as suicide. This is the fourth hanging between 2 happening in Texas and 2 happening in California that have occurred in about the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks at this point, but I think pretty sure 2 weeks. 3 of those 4 people were black and 1 is a Latino. They're ruling them all suicides so far. But the 2 in California, the FBI, and I can't remember the other organizations, there's 2 more I believe, they're all investigating it as possibly something more because it very well could be. I mean, you know, they said that one of the people had their backpack on, and it just doesn't make sense with a suicide. Like, who's going to do that with their backpack on? I just feel like that would be something that, you know, if you're carrying your backpack, it's probably because you got snatched up somewhere. or something, you know what I mean? And they just didn't even take it off of you, or somebody strung you up or something, which I don't have any evidence of that, of course, and the reports are only saying so much because they're still investigating it and all that. I guess we'll find out more as it goes. Those were, the two that happened in Texas were in the Houston area. And that's a trip to me because, that just goes to show how much hatred, if it wasn't a suicide, that's another thing. There's footage, apparently, of this last one. But they're not releasing the footage yet. So it's been demanded that they release this footage, but for some reason they're not releasing it yet. Not really sure why. They're saying that based on the footage, and they're also saying that based on witness testimony, but in these articles I read, they didn't give any names or anything like that. They said based on security footage and witness testimony that this last one, this last teenager that did it, that it was suicide. But they won't release the video. And I've yet to hear any announcement about who these people are that were witnessing anything. It just seems a little fishy to me, given the climate of everything. And I think that the more we find that there's corruption in all of these different ways that we're seeing, I'm even seeing a hell of a lot of old videos come up now. Last year, year before that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, of all this unsolved stuff, all these things ruled suicide, all this police got away with this, somebody's in handcuffs but yet committed suicide by shooting himself in the face. That shit just doesn't make sense. And we need to really open our eyes to it and understand that until we address the corruption in the systems, we're not going to be able to stop the officers. It's kind of like, and I say stop the officers, I don't mean that like all officers. I mean the bad ones that we're addressing. We're not going to be able to stop those guys without having to have an individual instance of each and every person if we don't stop the corruption. How do we stop the corruption? First, we got to figure out policy. But we also got to start going through what policies already there and start seeing where the loopholes are at that are making people feel they can get away with certain things. And then closing them up and sealing them tight and making sure nothing ever feels like it can slide through there again. It's going to take some pretty dedicated people to do that. I think that we're in for a much rougher ride than we expect when it comes to changing the policy. But we still have to do it, and we still need to do it, and we need to do it as fast as possible. Robert Fuller, who was one of the men that was hanged in California. This is crazy. Yesterday, his brother, they says half-brother, but I'm going to call it his brother. He was killed by a police officer, shot yesterday. Now, mind you, his brother was just found hung like the week prior, 5 days before, I think. And then now a police officer killed him. What in the world is going on? What's going on? What in the world is happening here? What's wrong with people? I mean, come on, man. Like, I don't care what. The dude's brother just died, and somehow you still managed to find a way to kill him or a reason to kill him. Surely you had some clue. And if you didn't, are you just not watching the news at all? Like there was no way to avoid killing someone to get out of the situation? You guys, it seems like these cops that are killing everybody right now, like the two that were, or the officer that's being charged for felony murder for shooting the guy in the Wendy's parking lot. You guys need to find better solutions. Like de-escalating doesn't mean escalate it to the max, because from there it only has to de-escalate. I mean, de-escalating means get it, if it's at a point, you bring it down a notch or two or three. It doesn't mean, hey, it's getting to a point, let me maximize this out, and then it's going to, die down from there because you've killed someone and now they can't de-escalate any other way. It's insane. And we as people really need to start looking at ourselves as a whole and start saying, okay, if these are the changes I want, what steps do I got to take to really make it happen? Who can I talk to? Talk to your representatives. Your representatives will help you write policy, in case you didn't know that. And you can find them online. Just look up your area, and you'll find your representatives. We've got 3 minutes left. I'm going to end this on a good note. A black 14-year-old girl from Chicago, Dorothy Jean Tillman. For Chicago, that's a really country-sounding name, Dorothy Jean Tillman. She earned her master's degree. Ain't that something, bro? A 14-year-old earning a master's degree. Don't tell me you can't do it. Don't tell me you can't do it. Don't tell me your kids can't do it. Don't tell me, oh, well, you got to let kids be kids and just let them play. No. Give them focus. Give them guidance. Give them direction. Yes, they're going to play their kids. It's inevitable. Even when you don't want them to, they're going to play. But if you continue to guide them, they'll do some surprising things to you. They'll do some surprising things for you to see. That's what I meant. So just don't let your kids just be kids. Okay? He's got this hand signal that he just taught me earlier that I'm supposed to remember. It's about my YouTube page. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Make sure you guys, if y'all missed any, to see if I say it right, if you missed any of our old episodes, prior episodes, I don't want to make it seem like they're old, prior episodes, you can watch them on YouTube. Search Just Talking with Johnathan Lewis, and you got to have my last name in there, or it comes up with other stuff. That's not me and not the show. Anyway, make sure that you go check that out on YouTube. Like, share this video on Facebook, all that good stuff. Like the page. Oh my God, I'm melting. I can't even focus right. You know what? We need a tip jar. Make sure you guys watch next Thursday. Like I said, check it out on YouTube. Like, share, all that good stuff. Don't miss. 6 p.m. every week. Unless something happens. You know what I'm saying. It happens sometimes. Yeah, I feel like I'm messing up my outro. It doesn't matter. You guys have a good one. See you next week.